The garden shed smelled like mold and broken dreams. I sat on its warped wooden floor, holding the fireproof envelope in trembling hands, while tears streamed down my face. Through the dirty window, I could see my sister Reagan strutting around our childhood home, now her home, in her designer mourning clothes. My name is Natalie, and 2 days ago, we buried our parents. The family home belongs with the family girl, Reagan had announced earlier, her perfectly manicured hand resting on the antique doorframe. But don't worry, little sister. You can have the shed out back. She'd laughed then, that tinkling society laugh she'd perfected over the years. The same laugh she'd used at my divorce party. Yes, she'd actually thrown one. 6 months ago. My phone buzzed. A text from Bianca. Tell me you're not actually sitting in that disgusting shed. Where else am I supposed to go? I typed back. Reagan changed the locks an hour after the funeral. Come stay with me. Bring hope. This is insane. Hope. My 8-year-old daughter was at Bianca's now, probably curled up with their golden retriever, blissfully unaware that her aunt had just made us effectively homeless. The envelope felt heavy in my hands. Dad's lawyer, Elias, had given it to me 3 weeks ago, right after Dad's stroke, but before the end. Keep this safe, he'd said. Your father was very specific about when it should be revealed. A sharp knock on the shed door made me jump. Natalie? It was Alexander, Reagan's husband. Reagan's hosting an impromptu memorial gathering. She says you should come in if you want. I wiped my eyes. Did she actually say that? A pause. Well, not exactly, but... It's fine, Alexander. I'm good out here. She's just processing grief in her own way. I almost laughed. Reagan's way of processing grief involved ordering catering and inviting the town's social elite to witness her perfectly orchestrated performance of mourning. Through the window, I watched as cars began filling our circular driveway. Reagan greeted each arrival with practiced grace, accepting condolences like a queen accepting tribute. She'd even positioned herself in front of Mum's prized rose bushes, the ones Mum had always said would be mine someday. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Elias. Did you open it yet? No, I replied, waiting for the right moment. Just remember what your father said. Timing is everything. I closed my eyes, remembering Dad's last lucid day. He'd gripped my hand with surprising strength. Promise me, he'd said. Promise you'll wait until she shows her true colours, until she thinks she's won. Won what, Dad? He'd smiled then, that knowing smile that reminded me of better days. Everything, sweetheart. Let her think she's won everything. A burst of laughter from the house drew my attention. Through the window, I could see Reagan holding court in the living room, gesturing dramatically as she told some story. Probably about how she'd nursed Mum and Dad in their final days, conveniently forgetting that I was the one who'd taken leave from work to care for them while she was too busy with her social obligations. My fingers traced the envelope's seal. Inside was the clause Dad had insisted on adding to his will, the one Reagan knew nothing about, the one that would change everything. Another text from Bianca. Hope's asking for you, says she can't sleep. That did it. I stood up, dust falling from my black dress. Reagan could take the house, could humiliate me in front of the whole town, could play the grieving daughter while relegating me to the shed. But she wouldn't keep me from my daughter. As I walked toward my car, Reagan's voice carried across the evening air. Oh, Natalie's taking some time to herself. You know how emotional she gets. The divorce hit her quite hard. I stopped, my hand on the car door. Through the living room window, I could see her patting some society matron's hand sympathetically. But don't worry, I'll take care of everything now. The house, the estate. It's what Mom and Dad would have wanted. My fingers closed around the envelope in my pocket. No, Reagan, I whispered. It's not what they wanted at all. I got into my car and started the engine. Let her have her moment. Let her think she'd won. I looked down at the envelope on the passenger seat and finally broke the seal. Dad was right. Timing is everything, and Reagan's time was about to run out. A housewarming party. She's throwing a housewarming party. Bianca nearly choked on her coffee. Your parents aren't even cold in their graves. I was parked across the street from my childhood home, watching caterers carry in trays of food. Reagan says it's to honour their memory by keeping the house full of life. That's the most Reagan thing I've ever heard. Hope looked up from her tablet in the back seat. Mommy, why are people going to Grandma's house? Aunt Reagan is having a party, sweetie. Can we go? I want to see my room. My heart clenched. It wasn't her room anymore. None of it was ours anymore. Not today, baby. But how about we get ice cream instead? I can take her for ice cream, Bianca offered. You should go in there. Reagan made it clear I wasn't invited. Exactly why you should go. Document everything. She was right. I'd read Dad's clause 3 times now. The key phrase kept echoing in my head. If any heir attempts to maliciously dispossess another heir. I kissed Hope goodbye and watched Bianca drive away with her. Then I did something I hadn't done since high school. I snuck around to the back of the house and climbed through the loose basement window. The basement still smelled like Dad's woodworking projects. Reagan hadn't gotten around to renovating this space yet. I could hear the party in full swing above me, crystal glasses clinking, fake laughter bouncing off walls. It just couldn't keep it together after the divorce. Reagan's voice drifted down. I mean, someone had to step up and take responsibility for the family legacy. I pulled out my phone and started recording. But what about your sister? Someone asked. Wasn't the house promised to her? Reagan's laugh cut through the air. Oh, please. Natalie living here. She can barely manage a rental apartment. Besides, I'm doing her a favour. She'd probably sell it to pay off her debt. The shed was a bit harsh, though, another voice chimed in. It sounded like Scarlett, the real estate agent. The shed is more than she deserves. You should have seen how she tried manipulating Dad when he was sick. Always there, playing the devoted daughter. Thank God I stepped in when I did. My hands shook as I kept recording. Every word was another nail in her coffin. Speaking of stepping in, Reagan continued, I'm meeting with the lawyers tomorrow, getting the deed transferred solely to my name. It's time to cut the dead weight. Footsteps approached the basement door. I quickly ducked behind Dad's old workbench. Mum? It was Milo, Reagan's son. Grandmother's photos are still in the study. Oh, burn those, Reagan said dismissively. Especially the ones with Natalie. We're creating new memories now. But, Milo, darling, don't argue. Go help your father with the guests. I heard him mumble something under his breath as he walked away. Once the footsteps faded, I crept up the basement stairs and peeked through the door crack. Reagan stood in the kitchen, directing caterers like a general commanding troops. She'd already redecorated. Mum's cherished blue curtains, replaced with stark white ones, the vintage cookie jar missing from the counter. Mrs. Ward, one of the caterers approached her. We found some old family photos in a drawer. Should we? Trash them, Reagan cut her off. This is my house now. My story. The past is irrelevant. I pulled out my phone again and started typing a message to Elias. She's filing for deed transfer tomorrow. How long do we have? His response came quickly. Don't worry, everything's in place. Keep collecting evidence. A loud crash from the living room drew Reagan's attention. Alexander, what did you break now? As she stormed off, I noticed Milo lingering in the kitchen. He opened a drawer, pulled out what looked like photo albums, and quietly slipped them into his backpack. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Bianca. Hope's asking about her old toys, the ones still in her room. I looked up at the ceiling, knowing Hope's bedroom was right above me. All her stuffed animals, her favourite books, the glow-in-the-dark stars we'd stuck on the ceiling together, all held hostage by Reagan's cruelty. "Tell her we'll get them soon," I typed back. "Very soon." Through the door crack, I watched Reagan return, now berating a server about fingerprints on the wine glasses. She caught her reflection in the window and paused to adjust her perfectly styled hair. "This is my house now," she whispered to herself, smiling. "Finally, everything is exactly as it should be." I clutched my foe with its growing collection of evidence. "No, Reagan," I thought, "nothing is as it should be. But it will be." "Play it again," Elias said, leaning forward in his leather office chair. I pressed play on my phone's recording of Reagan's party. "The shed is more than she deserves." Elias nodded slowly, making notes. "This is good, but we need more. The clause requires clear evidence of malicious intent. She's literally locked me out of my childhood home and put me in a shed. How much more malicious can it get?" He slid a document across his desk. "Reagan filed these papers this morning. She's claiming you abandoned the property and forfeited your rights." My hands clenched into fists. "I was there every day taking care of our parents." "I know, but Reagan's crafty. She's painted a picture of you as unstable after your divorce, unfit to maintain the family home." He paused. "She's even submitted statements from concerned friends about your emotional state." "Of course she has." I slumped in my chair. "She's always been good at making me look bad." My phone buzzed. A social media notification. Reagan had posted photos of her renovation progress, including one of workers tearing down Mum's garden trellis. The caption read, "Finally, fixing years of neglect, making this house the showpiece it deserves to be. Renew beginnings, your family legacy." "Perfect," Elias said, looking over my shoulder. "Screenshot everything. Her social media trail is exactly what we need." "I have something else too." I pulled up my voicemail and scrolled to a saved message from 6 months ago. Dad's voice, weak but clear, filled the office. "Natalie, honey, I need you to know. The house is yours, always was meant to be yours. Your sister, she's not. Just remember what we discussed. The papers, Elias has everything." "When was this recorded?" Elias asked sharply. 2 days before his stroke. He was having a lucid moment. "This is crucial evidence. Why didn't you mention it before?" I stared at my hands. "Because using it feels like betrayal. Dad trusted me with that clause, told me to wait. But am I any better than Reagan if I use it to destroy her?" "You're not destroying her," Elias said firmly. "You're enforcing your father's wishes. There's a difference." My phone buzzed again. A text from Milo. "Mum's going through Grandma's jewellery box. Says she's redistributing family heirlooms. Think you should know." "The jewellery box," I whispered. "Mum's jewellery box. There was something." I closed my eyes, remembering Mum's last coherent day. She'd called me to her bedside, trying to tell me something about papers in her jewellery box. But Reagan had interrupted, shooing me away to let Mother rest. "Elias, we need to get into that house. Today." He shook his head. "We can't. Not legally. Not yet." Another text from Milo. "I can let you in. Mum's at yoga until 2. I showed Elias the message. He sighed. Officially, I didn't see that. 20 minutes later, I was slipping through the back door, while Milo kept watch. The house smelled different now, like artificial flowers and furniture polish. Reagan had already replaced most of the family photos with artistic black and whites of herself. Mum's jewellery box sat on Reagan's new vanity table. My hands trembled as I opened it. The jewellery was gone, But there, in a hidden compartment at the bottom, was a folded piece of paper. Mum's handwriting, shaky but legible. "My dearest Natalie, the house must go to you. Reagan will try to take it. She always takes what isn't hers. Your father and I have made arrangements. Trust in that. All my love. Find what you needed?" I whirled around. Milo stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. "Mums, she's not who everyone thinks she is she?" "No," I said softly. "She's not." He nodded. "I've got videos of her talking about you, about what she's doing. Want them." "Why would you help me?" "Because last week she told my girlfriend she wasn't socially acceptable enough to come to dinner. Because she makes Dad miserable, but he's too scared to leave. Because..." He looked around the changed house. "Because this isn't right." My phone buzzed one final time. Elias. "Reagan just filed the final deed transfer. It's done. She's made her move." I looked at Mum's note, then at Milo. "Thank you," I said, "for everything. Just..." He hesitated. "When it happens, whatever it is, can I be there?" I tucked the note into my pocket. "Yes. You should be there when your mother finally learns what karma feels like." Walking out, I passed the garden shed. Reagan had ordered it painted white to match her new aesthetic, but no amount of paint could hide what it represented. Her cruelty, her greed, her absolute certainty that she'd won. That certainty was about to be her downfall. "Dad, please, you need to eat something." I held the spoon to his lips, but he turned away, his eyes fixed on something I couldn't see. "She's doing it again," he mumbled. "Taking things, always taking." "Who, Dad?" "Your sister." His hand shot out surprisingly strong and gripped my wrist. "Reagan, watch her. She's not what she seems." That was 3 months ago, one of his last lucid moments before the final decline. The memory hit me as I sat in Bianca's kitchen, sorting through old photos Milo had rescued from Reagan's purge. "Look at this one," Bianca said, holding up a Christmas picture. "Your dad's face when Reagan announced she was selling his boat without asking." He was devastated, I remembered. That boat was his retirement dream. My phone lit up with a text from Elias. "Reagan's starting renovations tomorrow. Contractors arriving at 8 a.m. "She's not wasting any time," Bianca muttered. "She never does." I picked up another photo. Dad teaching me to garden, while Reagan posed for Mum's camera in her pristine white dress. You know what's weird? In his last weeks, Dad kept trying to tell me something about the garden. "The rose garden?" "No, the vegetable garden. He was obsessed with the tomato plants." Bianca's eyes widened. "The ones by his workshop?" "Yeah, why?" "Natalie, your dad kept his important papers in that workshop. Remember, in that old filing cabinet?" I was already grabbing my keys. "Watch Hope for me." The night was cool as I crept around the back of the house. Reagan's new security lights flooded the garden, but the workshop remained in shadow. The door was locked, but I knew where Dad kept the spare key, under a fake rock that Reagan would have thought too tacky to touch. Inside, everything smelled of sawdust and memory. Dad's tools still hung on their hooks, his half-finished projects gathering dust. The filing cabinet stood in the corner, partially hidden behind boxes labelled "Donate" in Reagan's aggressive handwriting. "Looking for something?" I jumped. Milo stood in the doorway. "Sorry," he said. "Saw the light. Mum's at some charity dinner." "The filing cabinet," I explained. "Dad kept trying to tell me about it." Milo helped me pull it away from the wall. The bottom drawer was stuck, but together we managed to force it open. Inside, beneath yellowed papers and old receipts, was a small recorder. My hand shook as I pressed play. Dad's voice filled the workshop. "Reagan, I know you'll find this eventually. You always were good at finding things that weren't yours to find. But by then, it'll be too late. I've seen what you really are. How you manipulate, how you take, The house isn't yours. It was never meant for you. I've made arrangements. Natalie knows. She'll wait until you show your true self. And then... He coughed, then continued more strongly. Then you'll learn that karma doesn't forget. Milo whistled softly. When was this? 2 weeks before he died. I checked the date stamp. Right after Reagan tried to get power of attorney. She what? She brought papers while he was confused, tried to get him to sign over everything. I walked in just as she was holding the pen to his hand. Milo's face hardened. That's why she kept me away those last weeks. Said he was too confused for visitors. A car door slammed outside. Through the window, we saw Reagan's Mercedes in the driveway. Quick, Milo whispered. There's another way out through the garden shed. We slipped out just as Reagan's heels clicked on the pathway. Through the shed window, I watched her enter the workshop, flick on the lights, and begin directing workers to clear everything out. All this junk goes to the dump, she announced. I want this space converted into my yoga studio by next week. Even the tools, ma'am? One worker asked. Especially the tools. This isn't a workspace anymore. It's going to be my sanctuary. I clutched the recorder to my chest as her words echoed Dad's final warning. She really would erase every trace of him, of all of us, to create her perfect world. I've got more, Milo whispered as we crept away. Videos of her talking to contractors, planning to demolish Mum's rose garden, telling Dad's friends they're not welcome anymore. Send everything to this number, I said, showing him Elias's contact. Every photo, every video, every text. Back in my car, I played Dad's recording one more time. His voice, strong despite his illness, filled the darkness. Karma doesn't forget. No, Dad, I whispered. It doesn't, and neither do I. My phone buzzed. Elias, Reagan filed the final paperwork today. The house is officially in her name only. Perfect. Now we could begin. And here we are at the historic Chapman residence. Reagan beamed at the local news camera, where we are undertaking an extensive renovation to preserve this beloved landmark for future generations. I watched the live stream on my phone, bile rising in my throat as she led the reporter through our childhood home, now barely recognisable under her improvements. Your mother's roses were legendary, the reporter commented, gesturing to the now empty garden beds. Oh, yes, but sadly, they were diseased. We're replacing them with a modern Zen garden. Reagan's practiced smile never wavered. Sometimes we must let go of the past to embrace the future. Bianca snorted beside me. Did she seriously just call your mum's prize-winning roses diseased? Add it to the evidence pile, I said, forwarding the clip to Elias. My phone buzzed with a text from Milo. Mum's giving interviews all day. Contractor starts demolition on Grandpa's workshop in an hour. She's documenting her own downfall, Bianca mused. It's almost poetic. On screen, Reagan was now in Dad's workshop, describing her vision for a wellness space. The camera panned across the room where Dad had taught me woodworking, where he'd built Hope's cradle, where he'd spent his last good days. This space was sadly neglected, Reagan told the reporter. Just a storage room for old tools and junk. The contractor behind her checked his watch. Mrs. Ward, about the demolition schedule. Yes, start whenever you're ready. The sooner we erase this eyesore, the better. I turned off the stream. It's time. For what? To make a dinner reservation. Bianca's eyes widened. You're not... Call everyone. Tonight at 7, the country club. Tell them it's a celebration of Reagan's renovation project. 2 hours later, I sat in Elias's office, reviewing the final documents. Everything's in order, he confirmed. The moment she violates the clause, which she already has, everything reverts to the designated beneficiary. Me? You. And the proof is overwhelming. Her social media posts, the news interview, witness statements, the recordings, her own journal entries Milo provided. My phone lit up with Reagan's response to the dinner invitation. How unexpected! Of course we'll attend. So glad you're finally accepting the changes. Better late than never. She thinks she's won, I said quietly. That's exactly what your father wanted. Elias handed me an envelope. This is the last piece. Give it to her at dinner. The country club dining room was Reagan's natural habitat. She swept in at 7 sharp, Alexander trailing behind her, Milo slouching in their wake. Her face showed only the slightest tension when she saw who else was there. Bianca, Elias, even Scarlett, the real estate agent. What a delightful surprise, Reagan trilled air-kissing cheeks. Though I must say, Natalie, the country club. Can you afford this? Oh, I've come into some resources recently, I smiled. Wine. Throughout dinner, Reagan held court, describing her renovation plans in loving detail. Each word was another nail in her coffin, every boast captured by the phones discreetly recording around the table. And naturally, once the deed transfer is complete, which it is now, by the way, we can finally make the house what it always should have been. And what's that? Scarlett asked. A proper showcase. No more cluttered workshops or messy gardens. Something worthy of our social standing. Reagan sipped her wine. Sometimes family sentiment must bow to progress. Speaking of family sentiment, I said, reaching for the envelope, I have something for you. A renovation gift. How thoughtful. More like inheritance paperwork. Reagan's perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together as she opened the envelope. Her eyes scanned the document, then froze. Colour drained from her face. This can't be real. Oh, but it is. Elias leaned forward. Your father was very specific about the clause. Any heir who maliciously dispossesses another heir forfeits everything to that heir. Everything, Reagan, the house, the accounts, even your trust fund. But the deed, is now void, along with every change you've made to the property. Reagan's wine glass crashed to the floor. You planned this, she hissed. You trapped me. No, Reagan, you trapped yourself. With every cruel word, every social media post, every renovation order. I stood up. Dad saw who you really were. This was his plan, not mine. Alexander! Reagan turned to her husband. Do something! But Alexander was staring at the documents, particularly the page detailing Reagan's attempt to forge Dad's signature on the power of attorney papers. You tried to... while he was dying. Milo pulled out his phone, clicked play. Reagan's voice filled the silence. Once we get rid of all this sentimental junk, once we erase their memories... Turn that off! Reagan shrieked, lunging for the phone. Mrs. Ward, Elias said calmly, I suggest you leave quietly. The movers will be at the house tomorrow morning. Reagan stood trembling. This isn't over. Actually, I smiled, it is. By the way, the shed's all yours if you want it. She's been in there for 3 hours, Bianca whispered, peering through the window at Reagan, who sat rigid in the living room, surrounded by half-packed boxes. Should we call someone? Let her process, I said, unlocking the front door. The key, my key, felt heavy in my hand. She has until noon tomorrow. We entered the house, followed by Milo, who'd chosen to stay with me after last night's revelation at the country club. Alexander was nowhere to be seen. Reagan didn't look up as we walked in. She sat in Mum's old armchair, the one she'd been planning to throw out, clutching a photo album. I suppose you're here to gloat, she said flatly. Actually, I'm here to help you pack. I set a stack of boxes beside her. Unless you'd prefer the movers handle everything. She slammed the album shut. You think you've won, don't you? Little Natalie, Daddy's secret favourite. This isn't about winning, Reagan. It's about justice. Justice? She laughed, high and brittle. Was it justice when you got all the attention after your divorce? Poor, broken Natalie, everyone rushing to help. Meanwhile, I kept this family's reputation intact. I maintained our social standing. I deserved this house. Mum, Milo interrupted, you tried to forge Grandpa's signature. You lied to everyone. I did what was necessary. Reagan stood, her perfect composure cracking. This family needed me to be strong, to make the hard decisions. You, she pointed at me, you were always too weak, too emotional, just like Mum. The room went silent. Even Reagan seemed to realise she'd gone too far. Mum was not weak, I said quietly. She was kind. There's a difference. Kindness doesn't keep you at the top of the social ladder. No, but it keeps you human. I opened the photo album she'd been holding. Remember this? Christmas when I was 7, you were 11. You got the expensive dollhouse. I got a homemade bookshelf Dad built. You threw a fit because his cheap gift got more attention than yours. That's not, or this one, I turned the page, my high school graduation. You told everyone I was settling for state college while you'd gone to an elite university. But you never mentioned that I stayed local to help Mum during her first cancer scare. I worked hard for everything I have. No, Reagan, you took everything you wanted. There's a difference. Milo picked up a box and started packing books. Where should I send my stuff, Mum? Reagan's face crumpled slightly. You're not coming with me? To your 2-bedroom apartment? The one you got this morning after Dad left for his sisters? He shook his head. I'm staying here, with Aunt Natalie. Traitor, she whispered. Actually, I said, he's the one who showed real loyalty. To the truth. To what's right. Reagan's phone buzzed. She checked it, her face hardening. Scarlett's already posted about last night. Everyone knows. You always cared so much about what everyone thinks. They're all laughing at me. She hurled the phone across the room. My friends, the club members, the charity board. You've ruined everything. No, Reagan, you did that yourself. Every time you chose cruelty over kindness. Every time you picked status over family. She sank back into the chair, suddenly looking older. What am I supposed to do now? Start over, learn from this, be better. Be better? She laughed bitterly. I'm 42 years old, this is who I am. Then I feel sorry for you. I handed her an envelope. Here's the key to the shed. Since you offered it to me so generously, it seems fair you should have it now. You're mocking me. No, I'm giving you a choice. You can stay there while you figure things out, or you can leave. Either way, the house needs to be cleared by noon tomorrow. Bianca appeared in the doorway. Hope's outside. She wants to see her room. Reagan's head snapped up. The little brat can wait. Enough! Milo shouted, making us all jump. Just stop, Mum. You've lost. Show some dignity for once. Reagan stared at her son, then at the boxes surrounding her, then at me. Something shifted in her eyes. Not quite acceptance, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. Fine, she said, standing. I'll go pack my bedroom. But this isn't over, Natalie. People like you don't win in the real world. This isn't about winning, I called after her retreating form. It's about making things right. Once she was gone, Bianca squeezed my hand. Should we let Hope in? I looked around the living room, at the space that would soon be ours again. Yes, I said. It's time for this house to remember what love feels like. Through the window, I could see Hope bouncing excitedly on the front lawn, pointing at her bedroom window. Behind her, the garden shed stood empty, waiting to see if Reagan would swallow her pride enough to use it. Some lessons, I realised, have to be learned the hard way. The morning sun streamed through Elias's office windows as Reagan stared at the final paperwork, her hands shaking slightly. Gone was the designer outfit, replaced by department store basics. Her perfect manicure had chips. "This can't be legal," she whispered. "I'll fight it." "You can try," Elias said calmly, sliding another document across his desk. "But here's your father's original codicil, witnessed and notarized. Here's your social media posts admitting to deliberately dispossessing your sister. Here's your renovation contracts, explicitly stating your intent to erase family history." "I have rights." "No," I cut in. "You had responsibilities to honour Dad's wishes, to treat family with respect. You chose not to." Reagan's lawyer, a nervous man named Patrick, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Ward, I strongly advise accepting the terms. Fighting this will only deplete what resources you have left." "Resources?" Reagan laughed hysterically. "Everything I had was tied to that house. My social standing, my charity board positions, Your identity?" I suggested. She deflated slightly. "You have no idea what it's like being the one everyone expects perfection from." "No one expected that, Reagan. You demanded it from yourself." "Sign the papers, Mrs. Ward," Elias said firmly, "or we can take this to court, where everything, including your attempt to forge your father's signature, becomes public record." Reagan's hand trembled as she picked up the pen. "I suppose you'll throw me out on the street now?" "The shed offer still stands. I'd rather die. Then I suggest you call your aunt in Florida. I hear she's willing to take you in." The pen scratched across paper. With each signature, Reagan seemed to shrink, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. A knock at the door made us all turn. Milo stood there, holding a box. "Found these in the attic, Mum. Your old diaries. Thought you might want them." Reagan stared at the box, then at her son. "You're really choosing her over me?" "I'm choosing truth over lies, reality over image." He set the box down. "Aunt Natalie says I can keep my room. Says family doesn't throw family away." "Unlike some people," Bianca muttered from her corner. Reagan signed the final page with a flourish. "There. Happy now, little sister? Got everything you wanted?" "This was never about what I wanted," I said quietly. "It was about what Dad knew needed to happen." Dad was losing his mind at the end. "No," Elias interrupted, pressing play on a recorder. "He was seeing clearly for the first time." Dad's voice filled the room. "Reagan will try to take everything. She always has. But this time she'll learn that actions have consequences. The house goes to Natalie, not because she's perfect, but because she understands what home really means." Reagan stood abruptly, knocking over her chair. "I don't have to listen to this." "Actually," her lawyer said, "you do. The terms of disinheritance require you to hear the full explanation." The recording continued. "I love both my daughters, but Reagan needs to learn that life isn't about appearances. Maybe losing everything will help her find herself." Tears streaked Reagan's perfect makeup. "He had no right." "He had every right," Elias said. "It was his legacy to protect." "The movers are finished," Milo reported, checking his phone. "Everything's out of the house except what you're keeping, Aunt Natalie." Reagan grabbed her purse. "I suppose you'll be throwing a party? Celebrating your victory?" "No," I said. "I'm going to restore Mum's garden, rebuild Dad's workshop, make it a home again. With my son. With your son, who's welcome to visit you whenever he wants, because that's what family does." She turned to leave, then paused. "The shed has electricity and running water, and a spare key under the rock." For a moment, something like regret flickered across her face. Then her walls slammed back up. Enjoy your triumph, Natalie. I'm sure it will keep you warm at night. After she left, Bianca whistled low. That woman would rather be homeless than admit she's wrong. She's not homeless, I said. She's just learning what home really means. Elias gathered the papers. It's done. The house is officially yours, along with all associated accounts and trusts. And Reagan has exactly what she earned, a chance to start over. My phone buzzed, a text from Hope. Can we paint my room purple now? I smiled, showing the message to Milo. What do you think? Should we let her? He grinned. Only if I can paint mine black. Deal. I gathered my things, ready to head home. Really? Home. Want to stop for paint on the way? Outside, I saw Reagan standing at the end of the street, staring at her phone. Probably reading the flood of social media reactions to her fall from grace. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered Dad's words. Maybe losing everything will help her find herself. Some lessons cost everything to learn, but sometimes everything is exactly what needs to be lost. The autumn breeze carried the scent of fresh roses as I knelt in Mom's garden, carefully pruning the new bushes. Hope and Milo sat on the patio, working on their homework while sharing a plate of cookies. Mum's going to be on TV again, Milo said, showing me his phone. Local news is doing a story about her social media influencer turned homeless journey. Is she still living in that motel? Hope asked. No, she finally took the apartment Aunt Linda found her in Florida. He paused. She asked if I wanted to visit for Christmas. Are you going to go? I brushed dirt from my knees, studying his face. Maybe. Dad says I should. He's doing better now, by the way. The divorce papers came through yesterday. A car pulled into the driveway, Bianca carrying bags of groceries. Your sister's latest Instagram post is something else, she called out. She's rebranding as a humility coach for wealthy women. At least she's trying, I said, though I couldn't help but smile at the irony. Aunt Natalie, Hope pointed to the shed. Someone's inside. I turned to see Reagan emerging, holding a dusty photo album. She looked different. Cheaper clothes, no makeup, hair pulled back simply. She froze when she saw us all staring. The door was open, she said defensively. I found some old pictures. You could have called first, Milo said, but without anger. I didn't think... She hugged the album to her chest. I can go. Stay, I said. We're about to have dinner. Surprise flickered across her face. I don't need your pity. It's not pity, Reagan. It's family. Hope ran over to her aunt, peering at the album. Is that my mom when she was little? Reagan's expression softened slightly. Yes, this was her 6th birthday. She got cake all over her new dress, but she didn't care. She was always freer than me. Come see my room. Hope tugged at Reagan's hand. It's purple now. To everyone's surprise, Reagan followed Hope inside. I exchanged looks with Milo, who shrugged and went back to his homework. In the kitchen, Reagan stood awkwardly while I prepared dinner. Your social media coaching seems to be taking off, I said. It's different, teaching women how not to become what I was. She set the album on the counter. I found Mum's old recipe cards in here. Remember her Sunday roasts? Every weekend, I smiled, until you decided they were too carb-heavy and started bringing quinoa salads. I was awful, wasn't I? You were lost. She traced Mum's handwriting on the recipe cards. I keep thinking about what Dad said in that recording, about finding myself. She looked up. I'm trying, Natalie. It's harder than I thought. Life usually is when you stop pretending. Hope's room looks good purple, she said suddenly, and Milo seems happier. He is, we all are. Reagan nodded slowly. I should go. My Uber's waiting. Stay for dinner, I said again. Mum's recipe. She hesitated, then pulled out her phone and cancelled the Uber. Over dinner, something shifted. Reagan listened more than she talked. She asked Hope about school, Milo about his music. She didn't once mention status or appearances or social media followers. As she was leaving, she paused by Mum's restored rose garden. "You did good here, Natalie, with everything." "The shed's still available," I said quietly. "If you ever need it." "No," she smiled slightly. "I need to build my own home now, but maybe I could visit sometimes? Properly, I mean, with notice." "Family's always welcome." After she left, I found Dad's last letter in the study drawer. "Dear Natalie," it read, "remember that revenge isn't about destruction. It's about restoration. Sometimes people need to lose everything to find what matters. Take care of the house. Take care of Hope and Milo. And if Reagan ever finds her way back to herself, take care of her too. Love, Dad." I folded the letter as Hope called from the kitchen. "Mum, can we make Grandma's cookies?" "Coming," I called back. Through the window, I could see the garden shed, no longer a symbol of humiliation, but of possibility, of second chances. My phone buzzed, a text from Reagan. "Thank you for dinner, and for everything else." I typed back, "That's what family does." In the kitchen, Hope and Milo had already pulled out the recipe cards, flour dusting their hands. Outside, Mum's roses bloomed in the autumn light, and somewhere in Florida, my sister was learning to bloom too. Sometimes, I realized the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better. All of us, together.